Falling!
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Falling!
Hard work, hard work, hard work.
Fall in.
Hey, what's good? What's good? What's going on? Y'all know what it is. It's me, your man, your boy, Trey Commish. You got the people's coach, Cornelius. You rock with your favorite vets on the next First Formation Morning Sports Talk. Come on and fall in, get to the formation as we get to talking about what's been popping, what's happening in sports. Cornelius, what's good with you this morning, brother? What's going on?
It's all good. I'm ready to get it. Like, let's see where we at this morning.
For real, you know what I'm saying? Basically, we look at the bookends to Monday and Friday, which you say, then we just do everything encompassing and lock it all into the pretty bow and talk about it. So, of course, it's been plenty to talk about for the most part. But what first and foremost is something popped off in and around your area against with two particular teams last night in the world of women's basketball. Can you kind of like shed some light on that? What happened?
Well, I know Caitlin Clark set the record, 49
Without
points, but I think she only needed 8 to set the record, so she's 41 points over. With the 49 points again, she's a machine out there scoring. And she did it in her 4 years, like no fifth year or whatever. So that's impressive. That's impressive what she did. Um, and on the other front, um, I don't know if it happened in my area, but the boxing match last night, oh boy, like those ladies was fighting Arkansas State.
So for the most part, of course, like you said, Caitlin Clark dropped the 49 piece last night on her way to breaking, I guess you could say, securing breaking the women's or the NCAA in general, but women's definitely held by Kelsey Plum for initially 3,569 points. Caitlin dropped a 40 piece last night, over 49 piece, almost a 50 piece, in which basically put her over as marked her as the new person. And with her, the way she puts up, saying numbers, I don't know if there's going to be if it's going to fall. Of course, I know there's talks of the great uh guard in down there over in South Carolina. I mean, correction, in Southern California by the name of Juju Watkins, Super Frosh, that's putting it up. What's good, TT? Good morning. Glad to have your information this morning. Happy Friday to you, sis. So, putting up those numbers, like, in which we see the same thing in the pros. You're starting to see it in college with the offensive barrage. Of course, I see Caitlin Clark discuss and talk about it. She is carrying the load for the most part for her team, to where she's averaging what I think 32 points a game and putting up those tremendous numbers. In state is Kelsey Plum's record was established in 2017, I believe it was, and here it is 2024 in which it falls. Prior to Kelsey Plum, the record had been standing for 16 years. Why do you think it's the shift in the scoring that is allowing for these ladies or even men in some aspect to be able to put up these numbers and knock down these records?
it's it's simple. It's better scorers these days. It's better. The talent is. I'm not gonna say much better, but better. It's definitely better. It definitely shows. And as far as the women college hoops, they've made the college hoops mimic the WNBA, which I think is an advantage, right? Because they do 4 quarters now.
Mm-hmm.
They do the 4 quarters and things, so it's more set up
Uh-huh.
for better individual performances, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have to move the ball. They have to get up the court. You got to get shots up. Um, Whereas, remember back in the days, they could hold the ball in the backcourt for as long as they wanted to. Like now, it's different. You want to get up the court. You want to score points. Ball movement looks like it's a little bit better. I think in some degrees, coaching is better too, all the way
Mm-hmm.
across the board. and it evens out because you got a lot of talent everywhere. Um, as far as the men's game, college we know it's still a difference. Like I think college men's basketball is still old school traditional. They ain't caught up, which is surprising to me because I don't know how these young men be ready for the NBA playing the kind of ball they still play in college.
So, and some that you said, right? So, true enough, the coaches that are coaching these athletes now are from the old school era, our old school era. So, would you say that is a mix of good and bad, or saying to sit up and put it to where it melds together, and then you have the products of Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, um, uh, Beckers, who's up in on UConn, Millie, that's in Utah. Like, is it because of that those mixes and the up and coming of new coaches in the within this genre of players, or is we don't know what we can't put necessarily put a a premium on this chemistries that we're seeing, and it is what it is at this point.
It's, you got to give it up. Like I said, the coaches like you got to get more modern. Like those old school coaches are not making it right now. You're
Mm,
not lasting real long with those. Like if you don't have that immediate adaptability to where things are right now, less emphasis on the defensive side of things, and more emphasis on offense. Defenses can't keep up right now because there's so much offensive talent. So as a coach, how do you coach? How do you coach defense when everything is so spread out? And I don't think anybody can hold anybody straight up one on one.
mm,
Even your best perimeter defenders give up a lot of points. I mean, when you look at it, um, you might get some steals here and there, jump passing lanes. You still got traditional shot blockers somewhat. Like take in the men's game, the Edie, he blocks a lot of shots, um, but he's bigger than a lot of his competition, right?
yeah.
But but when you look at it, his downside is he's slow. Like if you get him in space, you can take him all day.
Hmm.
You can take him all day. So it's definitely the talent. Um, on the women's side of things, like height. Remember when height used to matter? Now height doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and that's men and women's game. Height doesn't matter as much as it used to. Um, everybody's playing like whether you 6 foot five, 5'11", whether you seven, whatever you playing 6'6" style ball, 6'5". You know what I mean? Um, I actually call it the life after the Kobe Bryant effect, as far as how everybody moves and things like that. You know, like the long range shot. Steph Curry put a hand in it with the long range shot. Caitlin can shoot from extreme range. What's her name? Reese can shoot from range. It's a lot of players now that can shoot from range, from distance. Um, and the worst shot in the game has become the best shot in the game, even though by percentages it's still the worst shot in the game. If that make any sense, for real.
And I get it. I wish I'm going to definitely. We're definitely going to touch on that when we double back, come back around to the brown ball conversation. But last but not in this essence, and talking about what Caitlin Clark was able to accomplish last night, breaking the women's NCAA scoring record, which was previously held by the Las Vegas Aces Kelsey Plum, with 3,569 points, career points. If you look at that number, hearing that, right, and you just talked about it earlier, and Caitlin Clark is a senior, right? The WNBA initially didn't force their players or have the players come out of college until they had completed all 4 years of college. Now, just like anything else or anywhere else, they're able to come out after 2 years and basically their junior year. But in this case, Caitlin Clark is a 4 year. This is her senior year. Um, Looking at that, she almost put up 1,000 points a game, or pretty close to it. As she basically has this season, the rest of the season to finish and set the mark for anyone else that's coming up. Do you think she will finish above 4,000 for a career?
Depends on how far she goes in the tournament.
Okay.
Um, depends on how far Iowa goes in the tournament. Because what I did notice is, yeah, they beat a lot of teams, but they struggled against a Nebraska team I don't know if it's just because they conference rivals or whatever, but they lost to a Nebraska team that scored 47 points the other night, and they lost 80-47 to I think it was I want to say it was Michigan State or somebody the other night. Nebraska lost pretty bad, but Caitlin Clark and they got beat by that team. So they up and down. I think if Caitlin have a bad game, which she had a bad fourth quarter that game, so her team's only gonna go as far as she goes, but if they have a short run in the tournament, then she
Mhm.
won't reach it. So it just depends on how far she goes in the tournament.
Okay, and I want to clarify and make sure I clarify. Kelsey Plum's record was 3,527 points. Currently, the record sits at 3,569 in counting due to the fact that Clayton Clark is the new record holder. So, as we was just talking about, will she be able to put up another 400 points or 430 points 431 points in order to break the record? Is that going to be possible? As he was Cornelius was just talking about, maybe depending on how far she goes in the run. Keep in mind she is the Clark Iowa offense to a degree, averaging 35 points a game. So I guess we'll see. But everyone will be looking out for it. But at this point, she is the record setter. So the record won't be set until until her season is over, and then she will finish off with where she's at, right? So definitely something to keep an eye on. Moving on, going into something different. Of course, we just finished. You know what? I can't stand watching ESPN or the sports mix or anything like that nowadays. I'm thinking myself, like, why are people still playing the Super Bowl? Well, for what reason? Why is the Super Bowl still airing? Like they run it like it's in syndication at this point. I can't. Like I've gotten better in life, you know what I'm saying? Where I used to, because it was when USC lost to Texas, I ain't watched TV for 2 weeks. After USC lost to the Texans in the national championship game. Uh, and so, but I've gotten better to where, okay, I can look at TV and I can turn on ESPN and look at them talk about all this stuff in which is going on. What did Scott say? The mark of a great defender isn't always about shutting someone down. It's forcing you to be the greatest scorer, to go deep in the bag, correct? Making you take a shot, wanting you to take, catching the ball where I want to. If you're a great scorer, you're going to make shots. But your 25 points you got were rough, and you worked for everyone. So you know what I'm saying, that right? In that essence, because it's cool that he says that, because it brings you back to something in which you were saying. You saw how you were saying that you can't, everyone, basically no one can hold one particular person, or you ain't can hold a person for a slight amount of time frame. That goes back into, like, my thing is defense wins ball games, and that's across the board, whether it's basketball, football, whatever. Defense wins ball game, the offense sells the tickets. So do you think there is somebody to thwart the fact that these people are able to put up tremendous numbers? Although you hear about the two-way players, we hear a lot about Kawhi Leonard, we hear about Jordan, and all this type of stuff, rim protectors, and when we talk about stuff. But do you think, like Caitlin Clark, I'm very sure she's one person who has scored over 3,500 points in what is going to be a 4-year career. There has been teams that have set out to stop her. Is advantage to the offensive player, in your opinion?
Especially when you have the kind of range that she has, right?
Okay.
Like it's all predicated upon where you can shoot from, right? Like if you're a mid range shooter, then you got to, of course, you got to be able to break your opponent down to get to certain spots, to get to that mid range. But when you can shoot like she can shoot, it makes it's harder to double team. It's harder to double team from the logo, like unless you just run a trap, somebody's open, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
teammates are open, and she's an excellent passer out of that. I think the passing has gotten better too, which is always overlooked, which makes it extra harder to defend somebody when they can pass.
So
Um,
basically, what Scott is talking about, and going back to what Scott was just saying, it's hard. So you have those that are just better offensively, have a better offensive bag than that of a defensive bag, like he's talking about. forcing you to go to catch the ball in spots in which you probably didn't want to, forcing you to take shots in which you probably didn't want to. In which is not just the lockdown. You just have some players that are going to be more superior or are going to get that off, i.e., in which I keep on seeing in Jokic knocking down a three-pointer out of an outstretched Anthony Davis during last year's Western Conference Finals. Like sometimes you just, whether it be luck or be whatever, you're just going to have some players that are going to be able to get off regardless of what you've caused them to do.
You have to look at the shots, right? Like um, Steph Curry just made this feat at the age that he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as the 4 straight games with 7+ three point makes or whatever,
Correct.
right? Remember back in the days when Rasheed Wallace used to shoot a lot of threes? We was like, oh, he overshooting threes. You know what I'm saying? 10 threes in a game was insane, right?
Yeah.
Now it's the most common thing for you to have a shooter on your team that shoot 10 threes. You know what I mean? Like Steph take a whole lot of 3 point. Remember when that was a bad shot? It's not a bad shot anymore, right? It's still a bad shot, people. Don't get me wrong. like some of those shots are not good. You know, as the Trey Youngs, as certain ones that don't shoot at a higher clip at 40 something, but shooting 40% from three is nowadays equivalent to the centers back in the day shooting 55 to 60% in the paint. Like this shot has taken over the game. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you say the math ain't there, but yeah, it's really there when you look at it because those threes add up. You start to look at it's not just the pro game; it's the college game. Even in high school now, a lot of people going for 3 point records. It's 3 point like the evolution of the 3 point shot has changed the way you can defend players nowadays.
Of course, the time he points out the fact that Clark likes to go to the left side, likes to go to her left, and likes to shoot from the left side of the floor. Everyone has their sweet spot for the most part. Of course, like Scott was talking about, is when you take that into consideration and you start to break down from a defensive standpoint what it is you can do, but in some cases it's just not going to work, especially when you have to look at picking up a person 90 feet in order to simply put some pressure on them so that way they don't come across like just the other night. I know Bradley Beal was guarding Steph Curry, which Steph got the shot off for the game winner, in which it was effortless. But of course, we're talking about Steph Curry. He's different, and saying, let's just be honest, he's different. But of course, it has come from, I'm sure, him putting in the work and the effort to be different. You know what I'm saying? So it makes a difference. But we're talking about just your regular average person, then of course, yes, like Scott was saying, you can do other things outside shutting someone down to be from a defensive effort, but it's just certain people that are different. Right now, I feel like Clark is one of those people that are different. You got a person like Millie and that's in Utah. She has she's different. She has a bag, even from her standpoint as a post player, that she puts up numbers. So saying everyone is different. People are different, and you continue to go through, and we see this, and it goes. That's a good point. You think she's good? I think I'm gonna let you answer this, Snook, but I think the WNBA is about to hit a different type of stratosphere as this new amount of talent comes in, and we start to see the exit of the old talent. I think the WNBA is about to be going to be on a different plateau, based off of the Clarks, the Beckers, Millies, who else? Just everyone out there, Reese, the Angels, some of the talent just recently came in. I think we're about to see a different type of WNBA. So I think we're going to see Clark in a Tarazi type role, if that makes sense. What do you think, Cornelius?
I think it's like you said, the talent that's coming in is gonna change everything. I think no matter how she fares right away, her impact is gonna be definitely there as far as putting people in the seats. She already doing it in college. She'll sell out in college. I don't see her changing. She's gonna still be a sellout in the WNBA. I think it's gonna be good for the WNBA. Ticket sales wise, viewership wise, all of these players that are coming now, they're gonna change the game. As far as what we've seen with the WNBA, they already like you coming out with those college, the rivalries in college. It's gonna be like Hakeem and Ewan in the you know what I'm saying, in the pros. Every time they meet, it's something to prove, right? Because Georgetown won when they was in college, and then Hakeem win in the pros. I mean, but you always look for certain matchups. It's the Magic and Bird effect, right? They played in college, and then they brought that rivalry to the pros. I think that's what the WNBA, they're lacking a little bit, but now they're about to get that. Now you're about to get that because there's a lot of good teams. It's a lot of good teams in college, and it's a lot of good players coming off those teams. So they're gonna make a difference in the WNBA. And Caitlin Clark gonna be a headliner.
Okay. So like we were saying, going back to what we just talked about, I have gotten better as an individual. I guess it comes with maturity, being able to watch, you know what I'm saying, being a fan. I wouldn't consider myself a super fan, but I do support my teams, right? So with that being said, I can't stand seeing the Super Bowl or the replays or anything in reference to the Super Bowl or anything that happened, of course, when they keep on showing it. But I mean, it's going to be a part of life, of course, until there's something that can replace that. So, of course, what do we have replacing it? We have the conversations in reference, like I said, hirings, firings, and different conversations, right? And of course, just like I said, at the forefront of it is things in reference to the San Francisco 49ers. We know the front office person has moved on, and Sam Peters is the GM for the Washington Commanders. So of course, what the Sam Peters does after he goes ahead and he hires Dan Quinn, the poaching begins, as we said it would be. Clint Kubiak moves on from being San Francisco's past game planner, offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. Of course, we know Steve Wilkes has just been fired, which we're going to talk about because I asked a question: is that a scapegoat? What is it? Especially when you take into consideration that this was the same defense or similar defense or even a better defense statistically than what DeMeco Ryans put in, and DeMeco Ryans is a head coach. Robert Saleh, prior to DeMeco Ryans, head coach. Then DeMeco Ryans, head coach. Steve Wilkes comes and does the same thing, even better, and he's a fired coordinator. But we're gonna get into that in a second. So you know what I'm saying, the different everything going on. But with all the moving, now that the Super Bowl is going, all the parks are being moved and everything like that, is this starting to be the trend in your opinion, Cornelius, where these teams that have these teams that done exceptionally well, their personnel start to get poached and taken, and things start to move around?
Yeah, it's the trend now, right? Like because you see it working in certain areas, right? Like you see it working for certain teams. It's working out better um, when you like take Mike McDaniel. Um, he didn't per se coaching staff in Miami, but he took players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he signed players. He brought players with him from that he coached at the 49er regime, right? He brought some of the players over. The Mostert, probably being the most significant, right? But yeah, you start to see like you saw D'Amico Ryan when he left. He took, you know, like you see who his offensive coordinator is and stuff like that. Um, it's just a thing now that certain coaches have this leeway, or certain coaches, like certain coaching staff, like you build your staff with the people you got the most camaraderie with, right? Like, and you always say, I'm pretty sure some of the conversations go, well, if I get head coach first, then I'm bringing you with me. You know what I'm saying? You want to come, or if you get head coach, I mean, you feel what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure some of those things have been discussed before. I mean, so I don't really consider it coaching per se as people taking a better opportunity when it comes along. You know what I mean?
Do you think
Um,
there's a loyalty standpoint to it, to where it's like, okay, you put me on as a head coach, right? And I'm under your system. And after 2 or 3 years, we've been successful, and my name keeps coming up, or my name has come up, or someone else that has been under you as well has came up, and I'm just someone that's seen as a good protege for it. Would you as a coach feel slighted if you gave me the opportunity, and when another opportunity presents itself, I exit your program because now we have built up, we have become, we have basically we have put in the reps just like anything else. When you're working out, you're building your muscles and you're putting in the reps to be where you are. We get there and now people come calling, or someone, let's say Bishop was under your system as well. Bishop leaves to go be a head coach, and I leave with him to go be a coordinator underneath him. When we grew up in your system, you sprouted us, you gave us a chance, you grew us, afforded us opportunity. Would you feel slighted, or should these coaches feel slighted?
No, you should feel proud that what you're doing is working, and you putting people in the game, right? I mean, because
Okay.
that's what the game is, right? Coaching, you ain't just coaching the players. You also bringing up a staff with you, right? And sometimes you're only as good as your staff is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you see, because when you look at it, like take when Tony Dungy took over the Indianapolis Colts, right? Like everybody was upset when he left Tampa, right? The way he left Tampa. It's like, yo, you building something special in Tampa, right? But Tampa wanted to win right then, and they felt like Dungy had enough chances. And it still took him a couple of years when he got to Indianapolis to build that team, even with a good quarterback, right? But he
Mm-hmm.
brought along, but he brought along his people. Some of his people traveled with him, right? He
Mm-hmm.
started losing people. The Lovey Smith, he lost a couple of other people. The Tomlins and all them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all these people were under one thing. Like, but you got to keep moving. But it only makes you proud. The Herm Edwards, remember Herm Edwards went to be a coach and all that. So it's like you have all these people under your tree. Mike Holmgren went through the same thing, right? Like John Gruden and all them became head coaches. You know, like I think it happens to everybody. The Mike Shanahan's, so Kyle Shanahan's, the all these coaches nowadays is no exception. When you look at what's his name, Lafleur. Where did Lafleur come from? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like on one respect, you got to rebuild your stuff, right? But if you're a confident coach, then you say, well, I can get the right staff again because I did it before, right? That's why your people leaving, right? Right? You know, the only person, like in this conversation, the only person it really didn't work out for this way, ironically, is the best darn coach ever, right? like this ain't work for you know what I'm saying? Like this ain't work for Bill Belichick, right? Um, on the college level, in some respect, it didn't work for Nick Saban either, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
those people, a lot of his underlings left and became head coaches, but they never won no national championships. You know what I'm saying? Except for when you look at Georgia, right? Georgia started coming up.
Smart. Yeah.
Kirby Smart started coming up, but I'm just saying, typically a lot of them didn't do a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think you're coaching. I think it's an honor if you coaching and your guys are able to go on elsewhere. Um, it would be different if your quarterback coach left to be a quarterback coach somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Because then it's like, why couldn't you just do that here? You're doing the same thing. But an offensive coordinator is a big step up. You're responsible for the whole offense now, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
just quarterback. So I think it makes a difference.
Mm. So, but on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have unfortunately the Steve Wilkes situation, to where
Mhm.
Shanahan basically, which I see, I didn't go through and look at it because I it's Black History Month, you know what I'm saying? We looking at things. What I didn't get is when you, like I said, to statistically, they were better than last year in a lot of areas. It's just a smidget of an area, but it was. I mean, it's better. A point system is what it is. Decimal or word case like that. They were better. Do you think Steve Wilkes was a scapegoat?
I'm not gonna say a scapegoat,
Okay.
um, but yeah, I think if you were gonna make moves, you're not gonna get rid of Shanahan. So I figured, but poor Wilkes, right? I mean, I look at it from a perspective that's 2 years back to back that he didn't let go, and he actually did well coaching, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like Carolina let him go.
Yeah.
Carolina let him go when he was the interim coach or whatever, head coach. You know what I mean? And you see how that turned out for them. But then you look at the 49ers in respect. I think it goes back to earlier in the season when they said he got fired. I went right back to when Shanahan supposedly told him to come down out of the box to be on the sideline. You know, like those issues right there. So you can pretty much, when you look at it, the whole thing, you can pretty much see it on the wall. You can't get rid of all the players either, so you got to hold somebody accountable. And I think Wilkes just got, unfortunately, he got to pay the price.
And so, and like you said, true enough, you just said he was asked by the office, by the coach, to come out the booth and come down and be on the sideline to call plays. And he said it wasn't a good fit. That was one of the things in which he said when he fired him. He stated it wasn't a good fit. What more can you do when you have one of the top rated defenses in the league? The numbers are better than what you was as a top defense the previous year. We ain't talking about years. The previous year in which you came in, similar or better or just a smidget less than that. Like, what more can you do to sit up and be? I wonder who their eye is on. I know I seen something in which it said Pete Carroll as a defensive coordinator. Of course, we've seen other things. Another person that left, Anthony Lynn. Offensively, he's gone. He went to be with the Washington Commanders as well. So that's another loss. So I really sit back and wonder, for me personally, where 49ers are going to be. Like, how many times can you recreate your team before that you start faltering? Like, I mean, I agree, the next man up, or hopefully, like you said, you've done enough to build. But when you start people getting left, like, we're not talking about Anthony Lynn isn't going to be an offensive coordinator. He's going to do pass game coordination and stuff like that under Clint Kubiak, who left to be the offensive coordinator. Like, he's going there to do that. So it's like, at this point, like, what do you do when you see this type of stuff? Like, once you start to get deeper and deeper into your coaching core, what do you do when like you said, the underlings are people who are, saying you have your proteges and you have the underlings under them, and then people under them? Like, how far down the bag do you have to go before you be like, yo, this is starting to be too much? But I digress in that situation. But with Wilkes, I don't know. I'm still trying to unpack it, unravel it. I wonder, was there some strife between them?
I think that comes down to that too. When you had a conversation, right? Like when you're talking about why you lost a game and stuff like that. It's like I told you, I was disappointed in the defense, which disappoints me a lot as far as all the noise that they talk. Like if the defense wasn't so boisterous, but it comes down to the players. I don't feel like Wilkes. Maybe he could have called some calls during the game differently or here or there, but for the most part, you got to make a tackle. You got to make a play, right? Like championships, we always say championships are won by certain things, but sometimes it takes the special players to make the plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Tom Brady was Tom Brady because he made special plays. He knew how to bring the team back. You know what I mean? Like no league was comfortable on those biggest stages, right? But you also have to remember the help along the way, like the defensive plays that was made, right? In the one Super Bowl against Seattle, the interception by Malcolm Butler in the end zone. You feel what I'm saying? Like different individual plays. Um, and you just don't see enough of that from San Fran uh, when it comes down to those big games. Um, it's like, man, you got one job. You know what I'm saying? You got the lead. You got the lead. Now go out there and put an end to the game. They haven't been able to do it. Whether it's been D'Amico Ryans, whether it's been, I mean, you feel what I'm saying? Steve Wilkes. I think it's more, but you have to hold somebody accountable, and it's going to be the defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. Somebody's going, like somebody's going to take that blow other than the head coach because what you feel like is you got a head coach that consistently gets you there, right? You've been in 4 straight NFC Championship games, so before you switch the head coach, you got to change the pieces around them, right? To
Mm.
see if that gets it done. Until you can move players. Um, I think Wilkes coming in, he had struggles when they lost 3 games in a row. They was blaming the defense then. You know, it was all defensively. It was a defense out of position, calling the wrong defense, right? Calling
Mm-hmm.
zone when it should be man coverage. All the things that they've been pointing out, it all alluded to the defense.
It's a tough sledding. Of course, staying in the 49ers bag, we see all the conversations in reference to Brandon Ayuk saying that he would like to go play in Las Vegas to team up with Adams. How much of this do you think is true? Or maybe, I mean, I think it's a good amount of the true actually, but he said that he is willing to play out his last year there in San Francisco. As a coach or a GM, me particular, if I get any wind of you as a player pulling up and talking that talk, I'm going to give you what you want. How do you feel in that aspect?
Yeah, you can't hold players. You can't hold these days. You can't hold players against their will, so to speak. So you might as well cut ties. If they already talk about leaving, you might as well say, "Hey, we're gonna give you what you know." Like it was like when they were saying Hassan Reddick wanted to leave Philly recently, even though he said he didn't say he wanted to
He
trade.
said
They
he
said,
didn't
"Hey,
say
we're gonna give you permission to ask for a trade, right? Like if you don't want to be here, we're gonna give you permission." I think Ayuk just voicing right now, after losing the Super Bowl, it's just voicing that opinion that hey, maybe elsewhere, the grass is greener or something, or I mean, he can't say that he want to make that move to go and win because the Raiders ain't been a winner in how long? You know what I mean? So it's more about just teaming up with a friend or something, which we hear a lot of that, right? In all sports, right? Like sometimes people want to play, like Devontae Adams ended up as a Raider because he wanted to go play with his old quarterback, right? His college quarterback or whatever. So you get a lot of that.
And I know sometimes it's probably based off of emotions or saying that you want to win. I mean, he's look at it like you just said, 4 consecutive uh NFC championships in which he's been a part of all 4 of those NFC conference games in which they've won 2, they've lost 2. Does it for a player? Does it get to that point? Like, do you feel like, oh, this is where we're at, but we need to be that next line? In which my personal opinion is they need that next line of progression because they've been there with the quarterback now. In which, yes, they went to the NFC Championship game, they lost. They come back the next year, they win. They go to the Super Bowl, they lose the Super Bowl. I think San Francisco comes back and they win the Super Bowl next year. But of course, if saying a player doesn't want to be around for that, then I could expect or understand like it's like, you know what, I want to go. I'm the GM. I'm looking to see what I can get for you. That's like I'm not keeping around nobody that don't want to be here. So yes, we're gonna find out what is out there to push you. And I don't care who the player is. If you want to leave, we're gonna see what I'm gonna do with you. I will grant you your wish if I can make it. Only if it's gonna be beneficial to me and the team.
Oh
What's
yeah,
going
you
on?
got to do what's right for you. You got to do what's right for your team.
Oh yeah, definitely without a doubt. Um, moving a little different. I would be lying if I say, you know what? I'm not gonna say that. The parade in Kansas City.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunate situation. One person loses their life, 22 others injured. Um, suspects in held in state with their what is being said to coming out and saying that there was a altercation between groups or disagreement in between groups, and then people pulled the blicks and let it go. Um, does these type of situations you think tarnish what the intent was, and that is celebrating your team or celebrating people? Um, how do you get around this type of stuff, in your
It's
opinion?
really no. I mean, people. You got to hold people accountable. It's like at a parade, you're not patting people down to make sure no straps are involved, no guns are involved and stuff. But it's like it's hard to police that, right? It's hard to stop that. And yeah, like you said, it was like a dispute or something that happened, you know. And so these people are fighting about something totally different. It got nothing to do with the Chiefs celebrating, right? Um, so it's like it's always unfortunate, but we start to see this a lot, right? Um, we start to see this a lot. This ain't the first year that something like this has happened, right? But it's normally not at first they were saying like it was like a mass shooting, but it's like it's multiple people shooting, and they saying shooting at each other at a gathering. Yeah, it's a little out of control, but it's not much you can do about it. Like it's sad that they would do this at a parade, but it's kind of starting to be commonplace nowadays. Celebrations are not. Pretty soon you got to get rid of parades and start just celebrating inside a building or something.
Which it doesn't remove that, like I said, the on-site culture, I guess you could say it is what it's sometimes it comes down to. Like you expect the expectancy is like this is something, saying when you see somebody, you see a op or something like that, it's like this, saying like this is an opportunity that I'm not going to miss out of. Of course, they take in consideration there was over 800 policemen that was there at the parade. Sitting on top of buildings, observances. I'm very sure drones were in the area, dogs, horses, all that type of stuff. But yet this goes down. But something to add to this, right? And I want your opinion on this. Sook. If you were around the situation and you see this, and you hear someone say "get them," and they're chasing after an individual, are you intervening? Are you getting involved? Or do you let that person run past you? You just look at them and be like, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Well, I'm from the old school. We typically mind our own business, right? I mean, for real, we typically mind our own business. However, like you're not gonna just let somebody just get jumped on in front of you, right? Like, but
Uh-huh.
I'm just saying, but you typically mind your own business. Like, if people running past you, you're probably not gonna get too involved with that. People running, but nowadays, you know, people see things a little bit different. Like, the modern world's a little different. Like, everybody wants to be the police. And everybody wants to, try to help. It's like sometimes it's not good to put other lives in danger trying to help a situation. I mean, so it's judgment. It's a judgment call at times, right? But minding your business, you can never go wrong with minding your business, people. Mind your business as much as possible.
It always helps. But don't be the person that you mind your business, but you pull your phone out. It's like you don't let the person run past you so you can get a glimpse of them running
Oh
past them.
yeah, I can't stand that. Like, no, we ain't capturing footage. Uh, Remember we saw that with the Alabama thing, right? All these people filming. Like, what are you doing? you know what I'm saying?
You know what helping, but everyone filming.
Right.
So another situation has happened. We know there's been a shift in the Seattle Seahawks' front office and everything going on. And so what now we have is Geno Smith, the current quarterback of the organization, just was afforded the opportunity to make $12.7 million. So that way was able. It was today, which they said he would have to be off the team in order for them to omit him making that money. Now they have till March 18th before he gets his next, before his contract, his that salary is guaranteed, which I think is 12.7 million or something like that. Not 12, I'm sorry, 22, 21 point 21 million, a little over 21 million for him going into his next year. But there has been conversations where he has not been given a warm and fuzzy that he is going to be there next year. As a player, if you're a player, how does that make you feel? Especially at the quarterback. We talk largely about quarterbacks because they are considered the leaders of the team. As a leader, how does that make you feel? And then a further question is, how do you lead a team when you're in that predicament?
It's called being professional. It's called professional sports for a reason. You have to have that professionalism with you. If you don't, then you see what happens. Like when you don't have the professionalism, you don't last long in the game. Just ask Antonio Brown, right? You could ask the Le'Veon Bells. You can ask certain people that have paid the price for thinking, like they're above the game, so to speak. You know what I mean? Um, it's definitely a team game. The team is always going to do what's best for the team as long as you can understand that it's business first. Not a lot of loyalty. We like to talk loyalty, but it's not a lot of loyalty in sports, modern sports. I don't think it ever was a lot of loyalty, right? Players like if you wanted to stay with an organization, then you got to take pay cuts. You got to, you know what I'm saying? You got to be willing to do certain things. I think Gino been blessed. Um, he didn't perform as well this season as he did the season before, so for them to let him uh, collect his money, at least get it at 12.7, and then we'll go from there if he's still on the roster or not. But it shouldn't affect him. If you're a leader, it shouldn't affect him because you have the ball. You got the ball there, a ball somewhere. So it's going to be the same in those in that respect. Um, I just think that like for me, Gino definitely blessed. Like I said, his numbers was down, even though he threw less interceptions this season. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
the rest of his numbers all the way around were down. His QBR was down, which was a huge thing that they was on about. Him being comeback player of the year.
yeah.
You
He was
want
first.
comeback player of the year, you're getting all the money. To me, it's a Geno Smith is not the same, but it's almost like the Mike Vick effect, right? When Mike Vick came back, Philadelphia paid him. You know what I'm saying? They gave him all the money. He was able to start. He took the starting spot. Like they got rid of McNabb. They shipped McNabb, and then Vick was the starter for a while. But he was able to collect his coin, get his coin back. So, you're able to get your money now. Just be happy with that, and then wait until March or May, whenever it's supposed to be, whenever things supposed to happen again, and see if you're still on the roster.
So so would you, knowing that there's a plentiful draft class of quarterbacks, if you're the GM in Seattle, are you pulling that trigger and deciding like, okay, we're just gonna go ahead and see if we can package Geno up? Because in state, even with that 12 million, he or what's going to be left on his contract as what is considered to be a top tier, he's at minimum in the upper echelon of the NFL. When you come to quarterbacks in the top 16, he's at least in that top 16. um, as a GM, are you looking at, for Seattle, are you looking at packaging them up and shipping them out and see if you can bring in some new talent, or are you fine with keeping them in the fray at least for this year till his contract plays out and then going somewhere else? Because 31 million for a quarterback at this point in the market that's going to rise and quarterbacks continue to set the market, is it worth it in your opinion?
It's it's worth it from a perspective of if you don't have your starting quarterback, you got a backup, you got a good backup quarterback, and then you bring in. I don't think you got to move Geno in order to get a quarterback out of this draft. Um, I think you can move other pieces to get that same thing accomplished, right?
Uh-huh.
Because you got other pieces that you can move. Um, if anything, I'm keeping Geno, like I said, because I got a quarterback that can show the young quarterback, and then it's like in the market nowadays, it costs you nothing to get a draft pick, right? They don't pay draft picks as much as they used to and stuff like that. Like they got limits on what they can pay rookies coming in. So get you a get you a young quarterback. See if they ready in the off season. If they not ready, then you got the option of letting Geno go back out there another year. You know what I mean? Like I think it's a win-win for Seattle the way that they can play it. Like now, what quarterback you gonna get in that draft depends on what you want to risk, or if you want to risk and just stay in your position, your draft position, and think a quarterback is gonna fall to you, which we saw Will Levis fell to the second round or whatever, mid second round last year, right? He
Correct.
was projected to go high on the list. He fell all the way to second. So, I think you'll get a quarterback in the draft if you're looking for that, and then that's cheaper. So when Geno's contract is up, hey, I got my quarterback right here.
Speaking of quarterbacks and drafts, we're getting closer. We're just a couple of weeks or a few weeks away from the draft. I believe the combine's coming up. As a matter of fact, before I get it, what do you think about the combine? Do you think we should do away with the combine?
I don't think it really matters. Um, um, I heard the great Deion Sanders say that half of that stuff that they want you to do at the combine, um, it doesn't really matter as a player, like what kind of player you gonna be, right? Like just because you can jump so high or you can run so fast, don't mean that you're gonna pick up the X's and O's that quick, right? Or don't mean that you're gonna be prolific at your position. So I think it's good for show because it gives us the fans something to talk about. I mean, when you think about the combine, what do you think about? You hear the certain stuff, right? Like if you're a fan of a certain team, you hear, oh, well, this new guy that we thinking about drafting, runs a 4.3 or whatever, you like, ho. So I think it's just all for flair and interest to keep the interest up amongst the fans and stuff like that. I don't think it really matters to the scouts and stuff. the way that we think it does. I think it's more for our benefit, the fans' benefit, than it is for the league.
So do you think that going back now, of course we know some of the main talks is Caleb Williams or Justin Fields. So do they keep Caleb Williams? Do they draft Caleb Williams? Do they move Justin Fields? Now that all the dust is settling in the league, at this point, you're Chicago. What are you doing?
Chicago makes bad decisions, but you never know with them. But um, if I'm Chicago, I go ahead and part ways with Justin Fields, um, just because he's been there a while and y'all trying to tarnish the man. You know what I'm saying? I would bring somebody fresh in and let Eberflus. You kept Eberflus, so I would go from there. Bring Justin Fields. I think he better suited somewhere like Pittsburgh. Atlanta would be the perfect fit. But um, if you the Bears, you can get the most too. Like if you want to build your team, or you in the middle of a rebuild like you've been claiming for the past decade or half decade or however long it's been, because those are long rebuilds. Um, what do you have to lose? You might as well package Justin Fields, get the draft picks for that, and then you still got the first overall pick. Take Caleb Williams, and then put some talent around him. Spend the rest of the draft getting offensive linemen, defensive line, something, to try to build a team up to get off the rebuild phase.
So is that going to be Chicago? Is Chicago in a rebuild? Do you think Chicago's in a rebuild?
No, but they always call it a rebuild, right? When you just that sorry, they always say you're in a rebuild, right? But but it's kind of a sort of a rebuild because remember they shipped their whole defense, so you have to build the whole defense again, right? You got rid of all your stars on defense a year ago. The season before you started shipping out pieces. You don't have an effective offensive line. Um, so you got quarterbacks running for their lives back there. You can't really get a solid running game going at all the time because you don't have an offensive line. It's like no offensive line, no D line. What do you have? You got a couple of pieces here and there, but what do you really have? If you Chicago, what do you have to entice a quarterback to make a quarterback even want to go all out for you, right? Like, like what do you have around your star players? Like you want these quarterbacks to be your star piece that you've never had. That's why I say Chicago's bad because you've had some good picks in the draft, but you chose Trubisky. You chose different. For me, no knock against Trubisky. He was pretty good his first couple of years, but I'm just saying, like overall, when the newness wears off and you really got to go get it, why does Chicago seem like in that market that they in, they never do enough to put great pieces out there on the field? It's time for them to start putting pieces and get like to me, it's a rebuild phase because that's all you ever done. You're not playing meaningful football at the end of the year. We ain't even talking about you in a Super Bowl capacity, a championship, or just winning your division.
It is. I mean, it's hella tough in my opinion when you look at it because they basically, like you said, um, they have to put themselves in a position to where it's like, do you keep Justin Fields? In which, in my opinion, that's what it should be. But of course, if they do that, then now you're shaking up the market. Uh, do you think Caleb Williams is that talent to where he can change he can change the outlook of the Chicago Bears and where they don't need to, and then they just bring in other talent as far as like receivers and stuff like that. Is Caleb Lewin that type of talent in your opinion, or are they fooling themselves and they have enough in Justin Fields with of course Cliff Kingsbury and going out and drafting like what the people want for him to draft. Some people want them to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Other people feel like it's not worth it. Um, But is Caleb Williams that talent, in your opinion?
I mean, you never know. The guy coming from college, um, he looked phenomenal. He looked like he could be that person, right? But do we really know? I mean, it's going to be how quick he picks up the NFL game and what they have. Like when you more focused on the rush, running for your life out there is going to be difficult. Just ask Bryce Young, right? It's going to be difficult um, to make that adjustment, which is that's the whole Justin Fields thing, right? Like if you put a little bit of talent around Justin Fields, a little bit more talent than what you got a winner right there, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if offensive line or something. Like I said, if you're able to balance it out, you got. But I think Caleb's a better passer. I think he'll be a better passer than Justin Fields maybe. But as far as all the other intangibles, Justin Fields has all that stuff. Like he's actually a good passer in my opinion. It's just that what you got to work with, right? And then having that losing record that they've got since they had Justin Fields, you think Caleb Williams gonna come in and change that whole mentality? I think it's gonna be a shift at the top first before you can shift on the field. It's like everybody got to want it from up, from GM on down. Because you bring in a guy and then you say, "Hey, we want you to do this." You still got to have some kind of continuity at the top levels and stuff in order for that to be effective. So I don't think um, Caleb Williams would be that jump start for Chicago the way they construct it right now. Even though they look better going towards the end of the season, they played better games and they were in games and they won some games going towards the end of the season, uh, which showed growth. But it's not enough growth in my mind because you shouldn't like Chicago shouldn't be that sorry. Like you should not be that sorry if you're the Chicago Bears.
So, be outside of Williams, Marvin Harrison, who do you think some are other top talents or top names that Chicago possibly should be taking a look at, or do you
I mean,
think that? Okay,
I would look at Jalen Daniels, Jaden Daniels.
okay,
I
LSU
would look at
quarterback.
Jaden Daniels. Right. I would look at Jaden. I would seriously give him a look, um, just because the offense that LSU ran, that's more pro style than the Lincoln Riley offense. Lincoln Riley's offense is built to beat college teams. It's a collegiate offense. Jaden Daniels was more in a pro setting type. Drake May played in a more pro setting type offense than what USC runs, right? With the Lincoln Riley is what. So I think you got other players that are more pro ready because they've ran some of the pro offensive style of plays. Um, I'm forgetting his name, but wide receiver, man. Besides Harrison, we were talking about him. The Jerry Rice son. I think you start looking at players. You got some players that you can probably put together to put pieces, but as far as like quarterbacks being ready, I like what Caleb Williams does for the college game. But like I said, a lot of times those college offenses. That's another reason why I think Kingsbury. Since we talking, I think Kingsbury is a bad move. His offense didn't work in the pros, but you want him to come in and be your offensive coordinator. It didn't work in Arizona the way that you thought it was going to work. Remember, Kyler Murray had to run around like a chicken with his head cut off to make that Kingsbury offense pop. You know what I'm saying? Like, remember all the stuff that Kyler Murray had to do. So you gonna bring that same guy in with that kind of offense to do the same thing with no offensive line again. It's the same thing. Like I call it the Steve Spurrier effect. Like this offense works in college, Cliff, but it ain't worked in the pros. Until you
Hmm.
prove that it works in the pros, it ain't worked in the pros.
So, in which Tommy says, I have been telling people that they are sleeping on Daniels. So, of course, when you look at Daniels coming from where he came from, Arizona, moved on to Arizona, went to LSU. LSU picked up another quarterback, in which, and then, of course, Daniel goes and wins the Heisman. He didn't win the national championship. He didn't do Joe Burrow type tactics, but he did do something what Joe Burrow did. Left the institution, came to LSU, won the Heisman at LSU. But of course, with Burrow, he won the national championship as well, and wanted to be a first round draft pick in the the following year in the draft. So you say Daniels is has a high side. Is there a quarterback in this draft potentially that is not going to do too well, or isn't going to be drafted? Or do you think it's one that's out there that outside Daniels might be that person? Do you think there's one out there that could potentially have high side or be seen with a high side, but is not going to do very well when they get an opportunity? Or is it more likely that they're not going to be seen, quote unquote, such as Jalen Daniels, but they have high side if they get an opportunity?
Well, Penix Jr., man, if he gets the right, for me, it's gonna be the right situation though, right? Like it's gonna be the right situation as far as what team picks him up. Like some of these quarterbacks are gonna be victims of the circumstance, right? Like Caleb Williams wanted to avoid it, right? He was like, I don't want to go to a junk team, right? like a team that's not, and I think that hurts. Like that's what hurt Mac Jones, right? Like going to an organization that was known for being competitive, but you catch them on the decline side. Of, you know what I'm saying? Like you caught them on the decline side, and it wasn't enough there anymore, right? Because the people that helped develop the quarterbacks before they gone. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the things that built Tom Brady in that New England offense, all those pieces they were gone. So now you bringing back this person. You got to remember, Mac Jones looked great his rookie year, looked decent, looked like he could be the future. You know, so he could take over. That very next year though, what happened? Offensive coordinator gone. You know what I'm saying? Now you got a defensive coordinator trying to be an offensive coordinator. Who knows what's going on? So like those organizations that are haywire like that, like you see Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson with the Jets. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. The Jets organization, I wouldn't wish what happened to quarterbacks. Like with Penix, you got to go somewhere where they value the quarterback position, where they gonna make sure that they got people to coach you up, so to
Mhm.
speak. Um, so like look at Zach Wilson. He a prime example of what I'm talking about, right? Sam Darnold was a prime example of what I'm talking about, right? These guys came in with a lot of promise. Like they were supposed to be the next this. They supposed to have where they at now. Like Zach Wilson, I'll be surprised if he still has a career after this offseason, right? like it's gonna be hard for any team to want to touch you, right? After what we've seen with the Jets and the way the Jets treated you. So if you can avoid those situations, then yeah, I think Penix, but for Penix, it's got to be the right situation. I think a person like we talking Drake May, we talking Daniels, we talking Williams, they can probably come in and be the next CJ Stroud and change your organization right then and there. You know what I mean? I don't see that in Penix. I don't see Penix. I see Penix needing a whole organization around him. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
but these other guys, they can potentially put you on the map right away.
CJ Stroud's name keeps coming up, but you know what
Well,
I'm saying?
because no, remember everybody was talking like remember the experts were saying that Bryce Young was better than him, right? Even though the biggest knock on Bryce Young was just his size. Remember? He's supposed to have all the intangibles. He's supposed to have everything that you saw C.J. Stroud have was what Bryce Young was supposed to have.
Uh-huh.
You feel what I'm saying? I'm not saying that Bryce Young won't develop those things, but who was more pro ready? Very few people were saying C.J. Stroud was more pro ready than Bryce Young. But we saw the picture. We got to see with our own eyes who was more ready. And I'm not talking wins and losses, people. I'm talking just the eye test of quarterback to quarterback, which quarterback was actually better suited to play right now. It was definitely Stroud.
In which, I mean, that's fair. In state, Stroud, I'm a rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, uh, showed difference. He was outside of Anthony Richardson, but we didn't get a chance to see really, in which we discussed before. We didn't get a chance to see what Anthony Richardson's upside of ceiling was this year due to injury, but we did see a regression from uh why I mean Young. Uh in my opinion, I didn't like Willis. I just think I'm not Willis. Levis. Levis
Levis.
wasn't. Yeah, Levis wasn't that. He won games, but when you look at it, I think Levis was. I think he wasn't that much better than Willis from previously or Zach. You're saying, but I mean, he probably or he might have. I think they have upside. I think they're going to try to build around Levis. So I mean, I guess he ended up working out, and then of course, uh, Stroud. Of course, we see he was the upside. He had the largest about of upside, and now the expectation is that they're probably going to be better in Houston come next year. I think this was just a thing in which we didn't see him coming because there's like, let's be honest, in Houston, who were they there really to look at? No one knew about Dale, or no one was paying attention to Dale or Nico Collins. Well, maybe Nico, but no one was really checking on anywhere else. Damian Pierce, Devin Singletary, who had been at that point was a journeyman. So no one was really checking on them, but they were able to pull something out of that, but it wasn't enough. So, but when you look at it, had Nico Collins and Tony Dale been healthy, would we have seen a different Houston team? Could we have seen a potential Houston team in go further and maybe have been pushing for the pushing to be in the AFC Championship game? We don't know. They were short. They were void of talent, in which we know that always comes down to be something that bites someone in the ass. And I think it did the same thing for Houston going forth. But I'm very sure they believe there's a bright spot in Houston. We'll see. Do they fall back? Do they regress? We'll see when the schedules come out and who they play on and where they're playing at and how they playing at. It all come out, and we'll be able to take a look at it.
Well, I think Houston. See, my thing is with when we talk, I think they got the best end of that deal, like of the deal, not just draft wise, but having those two picks was crucial though. You know, you get the offensive player, the offensive rookie of the year, the defensive rookie of the year. You know, you get those combinations, um, which sets your team up good. But the coaching, I think the coaching is the difference, right? The um, because you would have expected Carolina with Frank Reich, right? When that's who they started the season with. Now he was a seasoned coach. He did all right. You know what I'm saying? He didn't do real bad. You know, I mean, you know what I mean? He had a bad year or something or whatever in Indy or whatever. But yeah, it's still he was like this was the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like develop quarterback, a former quarterback developing a quarterback. You say, well, it's a good chance that Bryce Young, but he wasn't able to get it done, right? So I think it's about the coaches and the rest of the staff that you put around these young players. Houston, I think they got more of an upside with that. Whereas when you look at, because I look at their division,
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Lawrence just ain't getting it done at a high clip like we thought he was going to get it done. Let's just keep it real. You know what I'm saying? I think Anthony Richardson gonna give Stroud, you know, and Indianapolis, the Colts, they're gonna give him a run for their money. Long, but I'm saying if you talking year after year, I think Houston's gonna be there as long as they keep building on what they're doing. Whereas, and I think Indianapolis gonna be right there, but Jacksonville, it might be time to make a move with Trevor Lawrence. He ain't doing what you thought he was gonna do.
So
Like
you know what?
for real.
I don't know. I think Jacksonville is going to turn that corner. They have the pieces, in my opinion. Is if Trevor
You think
Lawrence,
they're gonna win a Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence?
I think could turn around. I think if Trevor Lawrence was able to turn around what we expected the AFC East to be, or AFC West to be, is what that division is going to be. You don't think so?
I think
The only
Trevor been
lag
at it.
is
Well, Trevor been
Tennessee.
at it a lot of years already. Like, so is he really gonna turn a corner? like, like when?
He's
I
only what
mean,
this is his third, fourth year. How long Trevor Lawrence been
no, this is
on
like what his this was his what fifth year,
his
fourth
yeah,
or
yeah,
fifth year,
yeah.
fifth year or something. I'm just saying, when is he gonna turn that corner? Like, they ceiling so far has been a comeback win in the wild card round of the playoffs. That's been their ceiling so far, right? Making it to the divisional round, getting knocked off in the divisional round. Um, and you seen what happened this year. They didn't even make the playoffs. Trevor didn't play great this year. Um, he didn't play great last. He didn't play great the season before. You know what I mean. He had bright spots here and there, and it looked. But how many years you gonna say when he almost right there before it's like, hey, I mean, you 5 years deep. You 5 years deep. I mean, I'm not gonna measure anybody to Patrick Mahomes, but I'm just gonna put this out there. In 5 years, you should know what you're working with, right? Like Josh Allen in 5 years, Josh Allen already been to an AFC Championship game. Joe Burrow in 1 or 2 years. I mean, you feel what I'm saying? So you see what your quarterbacks got, right? From where they bringing you from, right? Like you take, like I'm not a Kyler Murray guy, right? But you take his one full season when he was healthy. Look at what he did to the Cardinals. They was bottom of the barrel. They went right back. They didn't have him this year for most of this year, they went right back to the bottom of the barrel. You know what I'm saying? But he had them as a playoff team, making moves. It's like, what has Trevor Lawrence done for that organization to say that he's? We saw more with Gardner Minshew. They went to the AFC Championship game with Gardner Minshew. Just saying. And how
Now,
many years was that? How many years was that? I mean, I'm just saying. So you got
so
Trevor Lawrence in his fifth year. When is he? Year 10, you still can't win playoff games. I mean, do you feel what I'm saying? Year 8, 9. I mean, that's what we're looking at with Trevor Lawrence right now.
and I get that. And you might. I just think that I think Trevor Lawrence is going to figure it out. Especially now, he's going to have to because he's. I think if this is his fifth year, he should be playing. He's contract. It's his contract year, or he's in his contract year, or he's getting ready to play for his contract year. So one is like they're going to the trigger is going to be pulled one way or another. And I don't think unless the Jaguars are one of those teams in which we're not looking at grabbing one of these quarterbacks that's out here.
But you can't say that you're going to pay him. You can't make him the richest quarterback. He
You ain't
can't
got no
reset the
choice.
market.
You ain't got no
Trevor
choice.
can't reset the market. You
You
just
ain't got
can't.
no choice.
You do have a choice. Say no to that.
That's
Like I
like
said, Gardner Minshew did more for your organization than Trevor Lawrence.
that's like
Like in a shorter time.
you know who's about to reset the market or have a head in it. Kirk Cousins. He's in a contract year. Kirk Cousins. I don't believe in Kirk Cousins at all. Oh, Tommy just said. And so it's like
I mean,
all
that's
these
what I just said. Didn't I just say Dak Prescott? You gonna be Trevor Lawrence? Gonna be? I just said that you gonna be a Dak Prescott. You gonna be like, you ain't winning no. You know what I'm saying? You ain't winning nothing.
but they're
You
getting
feel
paid.
like-
But so that's why I say like he's going to, in my opinion, Trevor Lawrence is going to be a part of market setting numbers this year because he's in this year. He's their franchise quarterback. Who else are they going to go after, or who else are you going to play? They're not in the position. They're not in a position without trading up to get these top tier quarterbacks. So they felt like they just want to go ahead and pull the trigger. And unless they were looking to trade said player to a team in order to move up to potentially draft one of the quarterbacks that's coming into the league. So I mean, it's tough for the most part. But looking to stand in the AFC South, looking at that division, do you think there's a problem in Indianapolis?
no,
See, here we go. Gardner Minshew or Anthony Richardson.
I'm going back with the young guy. As soon as the young guy is healthy, sorry, Gardner. Gardner has been a journeyman in the last few years for a reason, right? like you got to think about it. Like
He has
he's
been the
been a
most
journeyman for a
successful.
reason.
He has been the most successful in Indianapolis.
But he's been, like I think he was more successful in Jacksonville. They went to an
Oh
AFC
yeah,
Championship game. I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
I think he was
late,
more
late.
successful.
Yeah,
So, but I just think the writing's on the wall, man. You go with the young guy. You go with the young guy because you were going to win games. I feel like you were winning games and you came up a game short of playoff and uh for the division. You was right there in that fight to make that whole leap. Gardner Minshew couldn't get it done. Now, would they have got it done with Anthony Richardson? I don't know, but I'm going back with the young guy. I'm giving my young guy. You going right back to the number one position, unless Gardner take it from you. Like you got to take it if
Oh,
you want it, right?
okay, we could go there. So
People talk Brady, but remember Brady took that job from Bledsoe. Bledsoe may have got hurt, but Brady made it impossible for you to go back to Bledsoe. You know, he made it impossible. That's what you have to do. You got to make it impossible for them to go back to the next person.
and so you saying basically that Minshew should have an opportunity to hold that position.
Yeah, he should have an opportunity, but we know he's not gonna get it. We know how it is these days, right?
Yeah,
We know he's
the
not
same
going.
thing I said about Trey Lance. That's why Brock Purdy wasn't going to get a chance to go to get it. Initially, if Trey Lance would have been healthy enough to compete at the beginning of the beginning, we probably wouldn't have been able to say anything or talk any further about Brock. Or it might have been the conversation of why does San Francisco has a barrel of riches because they have Brock Purdy that did this last year, and if Trey Lance would have performed in state. The same thing it looked like it's about to be rear his head in Indianapolis because you have Anthony Richardson, who we've seen bright spots of last year, but then you have Gardner Minshew, who without top tier running back Jonathan Taylor was able to win some games and put them in positions where they could have went to the playoffs, but it didn't end up that way. They was eliminated, but they did end up with all that, which they went through, finished with a winning record. That has to count for something.
I mean, it counts, right? But when you look at the Colts, the big picture, um, when they had Peyton Manning, look at their history. Peyton Manning came in, started right away.
Uh-huh.
That was your guy, no matter what. You know what I'm saying? Andrew Luck came in day one, he the starter. You know what I'm saying? Andrew Luck came in day one, you the starter. Uh, Anthony Richardson came in day one, he was, he took that job. Like Minshew was on the roster when Anthony Richardson was healthy, and who started the season? I mean, I'm just saying. So it's Anthony Richardson's job to lose, um, and I think you're gonna go back with the young guy. Um, and Minshew might be a good piece. Either you keep him as a backup, or you put him in a trade package somewhere so you can get other pieces. Minshew, I like Minshew's game. I think he all right, but nah, you're not building a franchise around Gardner Minshew.
Going forth, I'm looking at different conferences and stuff like that, divisions. Where does, in your opinion, before it happens, let's see if you was to pull your crystal ball out, where does Russell Wilson end up playing this season?
I'd be surprised if he don't end up in Pittsburgh, um, or New Orleans, man. Like
Are New Orleans already?
I give him one of those two spots. Like
Derek Carr's done, or he's moving?
I think you just send Carr home. I mean, you don't even you don't try to trade him. You don't try to do nothing. You just wave him.
Let's release him.
Just wave bye bye. You know what I'm saying? Just give him the wave. Put him on the waiver wire. Um, I think Russell Wilson going to New Orleans would be a good move, but going to Pittsburgh I think would be a better move. Um, because if you want Kenny Pickett to still be your guy, that's cool. But we clear that he's not ready right now. You know what I'm saying? This will be his third year or whatever, Pickett's third or fourth year going into. He probably could have used another quarterback in front of him that he could sit behind and watch. You know what I'm saying? Um, Going to Dallas, I hope not. Like we can't do nothing. Like we already in trouble. We can't do nothing with him. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't want him in Dallas because we already got that problem, right?
Yeah.
Like let's just keep it real. Russell Wilson seen his better days. I think in Pittsburgh he fits. The reason why I think he fits in Pittsburgh um, is because he'll be asked to do something but less, right? Like Mason Rudolph didn't have to do a whole lot to make that team a winner, right? Like, but and if they have to get over the top with certain plays here and there, Russell Wilson can still make those plays. He's not a good fit for my Cowboys. This is why he's not a good fit for the Cowboys. Um, we don't know which direction we going. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure we're gonna be able to search for a running game when we should be on the search for offensive line and all that kind of. But that's another story for another day. We just don't have. We need a quarterback to do too much in Dallas right now. And Russell Wilson, he don't need that much on his plate. We see how he perform when it's too much on his plate. He's not that good.
He said he'd rather AJ McCarron over Russell Wilson.
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. But yeah, I think those two places are good fits. I mean,
Do
no
you think?
other.
Do you think it would be sensible to send Carr back to Oakland? I mean, back to Las Vegas?
No, Carr. He wasn't that good in Vegas. Like this guy. How many years does it take to really understand that this guy is not that good? I can't even understand why he keeps getting chances. To be honest, I mean that's no not. I ain't trying to take food off the next man's plate. I'm just saying from the eye test, from what we've seen from Carr, his numbers, um, his record, his record is like the only quarterback that I've seen have a record that he have and keep being a starter or whatever is like Eli Manning. The only difference is Eli Manning won two Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? But Eli Manning was like 118 and 180 in wins and losses, right? Like he didn't always have a team, but he won two Super Bowls. I don't see no Super. You're not winning no Super Bowls with Carr. If winning is your thing, it's not there. You're not gonna win with Carr.
So, do you think the Rams? I mean, do you think the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be pull the trigger on a veteran quarterback? Like I said, Kirk Cousins might be up for grabs depending on what they do. Carr is there, Wilson's there. Um, they have Garoppolo currently in the house, but they benched him and ran with O'Callahan. Uh, what do you think the Las Vegas Raiders or do they draft somebody? What do you think they're with Coach Pierce? What do you think they're looking at right now?
I think you're looking at the draft. If I'm the Raiders, I'm looking at the draft. You're not gonna find a quarterback on the market that's going. You got to think. You're the Raiders. Your biggest competition right now is beating the Chiefs. You're not gonna beat the Chiefs with Kirk Cousins. Sorry, that's not gonna happen. With the way you constructed right now, you're not gonna beat the Chiefs with Kirk Cousins. You're not gonna overthrow them with that. You gotta come get you a rookie quarterback, Bill Furnell, and because you've seen that you could do it with the O'Connell guy, whatever his name was. You've seen that you could get something out of that. You know what I'm saying? So get you a quarterback that you could say this could be my franchise in 3 or 4 years when it comes time for those contracts. Get you somebody that you can work with.
Mm.
I mean, we talked about that earlier, Trey. Steve Wilkes just got like he got the worst luck, right? Like Carolina was not playing bad when they fired the man or when they let the man go. Like you said, y'all had better defensive numbers than what D'Amico Ryan had the year before, and then I mean, it's just I think Wilkes, man, is he a the enemy type person? Like,
Mm.
can he take constructive criticism? Does he lose it? You know what I'm saying? Like, did he just say to Shanahan, like, "Hey, I've been a head coach in this game, and and I don't want to listen." I mean, I'm just saying, you don't know all the ins and
Like
outs of why they would fire
it's
somebody.
true to that, especially when you think of it, because Coach Kyle Shanahan's message was it wasn't a good fit. Like y'all went a whole year, fam. Like if they had better numbers, like how is it not a good fit? Like evidently there was some head
Right.
bumping or maybe some back and forth in within between the two of them, and it puts them in that position to where this is where they're at. So you just said a name, Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy is currently without a job. So where do you think Eric Bieniemy will end up?
Who needs somebody, man? I don't know. If I was Carolina, I would look at Eric Bieniemy. Um, I would give him a serious look. I know you just switched the head coach and stuff like that, and this head coach gonna bring in his staff and stuff. But I would seriously consider Eric Bieniemy at least. But I heard he going back to Kansas City, so I heard he was already in talks with Kansas City. So he's probably going to end up back on the sidelines with Andy Reid in some capacity, whether it's offensive, like just an extra offensive mind, a consultant or something. I think he'll end up back in Kansas City.
That's crazy. Would you go back to Kansas City?
I mean, yeah, why not?
Hell
They
no.
winning. They winning. Hey, I know I'll be a Super Bowl. I'll be a part of a Super Bowl coaching staff. I mean, I mean,
Not
it
the way
didn't
they
work out. It didn't work out in Washington. The Commanders. It didn't work out. Like for whatever reason, it didn't. It didn't work out. You know what I mean? So we saw this with Josh McDaniels, right? The first time he left New England, he went right back to New England. So I think that if the enemy went back, I think if the enemy went back to New England, I mean to Kansas City, excuse me, and he sits and waits 2, 3 years from now when Andy Reid say he's done, I think that's your head coaching job right there.
So what I seen is that is the that seems to be the what Kansas City does. Like Nagy came back and went to Kansas City after he left, in which he was there while Bieniemy was holding down his position, in which he left from to go coach Chicago, and then he came back and sat there, and then Bieniemy was almost forced out, in my opinion, was forced out the previous year, the next year, and then Nagy took over. You know what I'm saying, back over his old position. So I don't know.
He
I
was
don't know.
forced out. I think they had a mutual, like to give him a chance to go prove that he can do some things. You know that he got an offensive mind like Andy Reid. When they attributed all your success to the other guy, sometimes you got to separate from that to the other person, right? Like
Mhm.
you know, um, we see it all. We used to see it all the time with the rock bands and the you know what I'm saying. And the
So
music industry used to show you that all the time, right?
you think Andy Reid basically forced him to leave, and but it's like, no, go ahead, you got to go somewhere else. This is the only way you're going to be able to get ahead of the game is by going somewhere else. You think that's what he did? Because it was Andy Reid had said they because remember after they went to the Super Bowl and lost. Well, no, after they went to the Super Bowl and lost the next year, they won, and then this year he did in what's called, but he didn't have a contract after they lost that Super Bowl. They gave Andy Reid waited, and he said he's going to have one more year here. He did the year, or it was prior to that, one of the two. He did the year, and then he ended up in Washington. So you think Andy Reid basically forced him out to make him be like, you got to get out there and take on take on something else?
No, I think it was a mutual party, right?
Okay.
I think Eric Bieniemy wants to be a head coach,
And which he was interviewing, he just wasn't
right?
getting anything.
And when that didn't happen, I can't bring you back now. You feel what I'm saying? We've
Okay.
already agreed. So at least for a year or whatever, you gotta,
This is last
hey,
year. Yeah, you gotta
yeah,
make it work for
you
you.
got a job. You know what I'm saying? And then we'll see where we are. But I think if Eric Bieniemy wants to be a head coach in the league, he's gonna have to go back to Kansas City because no other team is biting, right? No other team is biting on you. Like you've had all these opportunities, so I think that you go back to Kansas City and you wait that out, right? We all know that Josh McDaniels, the reason why he left the second time New England is because he didn't get what he was promised. You feel what I'm saying? Like Bill was supposed to retire years ago, and he was supposed to take over. You know what I mean? That never happened. So how long are you supposed to wait on the next guy and then ironically, when Bill does leave, McDaniel's is no longer on. McDaniel is no longer there, and then Mayo gets that opportunity that McDaniel. So he wanted for so long. He wanted to be the New England guy, and he waited
I
as long as he could. So
I
if you
think
be enemy, you got to make moves.
I think McDaniels outcoached himself out of that position anyway in state. Like you went and took on two head coaching positions, and neither one of them worked out for you. Like
Right,
I wouldn't want you as my head
exactly.
either.
I think what people forget is that owners make these decisions, right? Like
Correct.
like New England didn't have a. You got to remember they didn't have a general manager. The general manager was the head coach. You know what I'm saying? So you talking ownership and Bill Belichick. That's it. You know what I mean? Your entry and exit interviews are those is right there. And the owner always have a lot more to say. If the owner don't, that's what happened with the Brady Garoppolo effect, right? Remember, Belichick was trying to get rid of Brady for a while. Like, hey, I got my next guy. He thought Garoppolo was gonna be his guy, right? But
Hmm.
think about that. The team didn't want Garoppolo when it all, and when it came down to it, Mr. Kraft forced that hand, right? Like, hey, Jimmy G got to go. You know what I'm saying? Tom Brady's gonna be in this building. You got to go. So sometimes the owners have a lot of say. I think that's what's happening in Washington right now. You see, they went and got Dan Quinn. Um, they wanted, I think they wanted somebody that's familiar with that division. Dan Quinn been in that division. You think about it, the NFC East the last few years. Uh, he been to a Super Bowl. I mean, I see the upside of why the Commanders chose Dan Quinn, right? Like he's coached against the Eagles. He coached for the Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to think. So he knows the Commanders in and out. He know the Giants. He fit right with that program. I think um, going from Rivera to Dan Quinn, that's not a stretch to me. And but the enemy being skipped over, I wasn't even surprised before. So it's time for the enemy to accept. Like what was his name back in the day? Norv Turner.
Hmm.
Norv Turner, even though I think he did get a head coaching shot once or twice in it. But remember, Norv Turner was a better offensive coordinator than he ever was a coach. Than he ever was a coach. So yeah, you got to think that sometimes you being an offensive coordinator, that's your ceiling. Like that's where you best. That's where you fit the best.
So transition a little bit, right? Going as the round ball. NBA action is fantastic. Do you think it could have been just as fantastic with what has came out for the dealings this past season, where the whole hoopla now is LA was approached by Golden State about pairing LeBron James with Steph Curry and Draymond Green. What could that have been like in your opinion?
What it is right now, the Warriors struggling right now.
So is
The
LA.
Warriors struggling right now. I don't think I've heard that. I've been seeing that. Like, what if LeBron? What are you? If you go to state, what are you gonna do? Change your whole style of play? Change your up and down style of play into just some half court play? What are you gonna do? You're not getting out on the break shooting. You're not shooting 4 seconds into the shot clock no more. 5 seconds. I mean, what were you gonna do with LeBron as far as how would that work with the flow of your offense, the way your offense has been running, the way you won championships? Like, um, you expect LeBron at 39 to run like Kaminga and those dudes? I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just saying. You see, Steph is tired. You watch the games. This dude is tired. So you gonna put another old tired dude with another old tired dude. I just, I don't see the upside to it. Like I don't see what you was gonna accomplish with that. You know what I mean? Now 6 or 7 years ago, yeah, great move. You dominating. But right now, you won't even beat Denver with LeBron on that squad. You won't beat Denver. You wouldn't beat the Clippers. You wouldn't beat OKC nor the Timberwolves with that. So I don't know what that would have helped.
Yeah. Additionally, we have seen where their core player has basically taken up a role more precedent on the bench. Does this mark the end of an era with Steph Clay in Golden State, in your opinion? I know he said he wants to
No,
stay.
no, it sets a fire. It lights a fire under Clay to come out here and ball every. You got to ball every night. You can't ball every other night or be as inconsistent as you have become. You know what I'm saying? It's a challenge. If you want your spot, if you want to be in the starting five, then play starting five basketball. For real, play starting five basketball. We got young people that's outdoing you right now. You're a veteran in the game. You know what it is. It's consistency right now. I mean, I can't blame them for trying to make a playoff push. They trying to make a playoff push. I think they just slid into the number 10 spot
Uh-huh.
solidly. But I'm just saying, you trying to make a playoff push. You can't keep playing around with Clay. I said this years ago. They should have benched him last year. Like, like you should have benched him already. The dude is inconsistent. Like we wanna give Clay a lot of props and say he's a future Hall of Famer and all this stuff. But since he's come back from the injury, he's been very inconsistent.
In which he stated that he would rather sit on the bench and be a part of and take have an understanding of his role and even take a pay cut to stay in Golden State as opposed to go somewhere else. I see that as cap. I'm hoping he's going to go down the coast and become the shooter in which the LA needs. I take an older Klay Thompson as long as it's an understanding. Like, we need you to come in and do exactly what we need you to do, like we had in Glenn Rice and other people. PJ Tucker fined $75,000 for disparaging remarks against his club, a reference to wanting to be traded. So he's fined 75,000 for talking out against the fact that he think he's not being used properly. He's somewhere where he shouldn't be in state. What do you think about this situation, PJ Tucker? Should he just be quiet, or does he have a point? I mean, of course, we can't tell the man how to feel, but in state, is it worth it, or should he just be sitting back and being on a team in which he's not contributing as the team is doing better?
This dude is a champion.
Mm.
Like it or not, PJ Tucker got the championship thing. I mean, you ain't getting younger. I wanna compete for a championship. I want to compete for a championship. I mean, I'm at you at that stage in your career where that's all it's worth to you now. It's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not about just being on a team uh, or be now winning is everything. So it's like, hey, I don't blame them for saying, hey, I'm not being used the way that I thought I was gonna be used being here. You know, I could have been somewhere else. They can get more. I mean, so yeah, you'll get what you want, right? Like nobody trips when Patrick Beverly does the same thing, right? Like he's done that a couple of times. Nobody, like we trip when James Harden says that it's not a good fit for him. But at the same time, PJ Tucker, he done been there and done it. He done won. He done won already. So I
Uh-huh.
want to win again. I want to win again, and I don't think I'm going to be a part of a meaningful situation here. So let's make moves.
Again, another free agent or someone moved on. Daniel Gallinari has now signed a deal that puts him on the front court with Doc Rivers and the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you think that's going to be helpful to the Milwaukee Buck organization, especially when you take in consideration that currently, since Doc Rivers has taken the helm, the team is what, 3-8 or something like that, 3-7.
Yeah,
Um,
3-7.
Not looking good, and especially when they just took an L last night to a
Mm-hmm.
jawless.
A depleted Memphis team. Nobody, no Bane, no Smart, no John Morant, like no nothing. How you
They
lose
got
to that team,
they got
Milwaukee?
GD.
How you lose to that team, Milwaukee? Stop it. Like let's just keep it real. The Doc Rivers move so far. I mean, you say you can't. We had Coach on, the commissioner on a couple of weeks ago said, hey, you can't judge a team, man. Look, if we can't look at this picture and see that something is, I mean, and now you're picking up old Gallinari. You just picked up Patrick Beverly. What are you doing, Doc? It seems like Doc going back to get these old players that played for him before along his route or something. For what? For what? It's not making the team better. You had enough in the building when they were 30 and 13. Oh, when they were 30 and 13, you had enough in the building already. So, you know what I'm saying. You had enough in the building.
So now they add Gallinari, which he helps to do something career wise, 15-4 on the year. I mean, in his career, but that's what stops in New York, Atlanta, Oklahoma City, Denver, and in Los Angeles. This year, he's been a part of the Wizards and the Pistons. Now he signed for the rest of the season to be with Milwaukee. At the All-Star break, where they're at. So we'll see how it goes with Donovan Say. So now the NBA is having people arrested for punching people. Isaiah Stewart was arrested, fingerprinted, and mugshot over a punch. Just imagine if it was like that in the 90s, 80s, or early 2000s. So with the Isaiah Stewart situation, I don't know if it was just the NBA. It could have been the fact of Eubanks. Eubanks might have been like, "Nah, I won't charges press." So I mean, you had those situations. In state, you can't. It's assault in any case. Unfortunate, but it's assault, and I think you can't pay it
Man,
any other way.
the Phoenix Suns, the way y'all hard at Phoenix. That's all I want. I mean, you're the same team that had your big guy Nurkic balled up on the floor. Now your other guy takes a punch and getting dudes arrested. Man, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like we just saw, we were talking earlier about the young ladies, those two benches. They were fighting. 5 people was ejected.
Uh-huh.
Where is that fire at with Phoenix? Like where is it? So here's my things for Phoenix. If you guys don't win, then I'm gonna call y'all super soft because y'all taking a beating. You know what I'm saying? And y'all acting like I'm not saying go out there and be violent, but man, stand up for your teammates. What happened to that those ever? Stand up for yourself. We ain't hear you Banks retaliating. We ain't hear you Banks. You just gonna get punched like before the game. Dude punch you before the game. No cameras, no nothing. He punched you before the game, and your teammates roll with that. I mean, I don't even understand. That's the second time KD and those dudes, Booker and those dudes. Okay, Devin Booker, they always say got this mamba mentality. I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, I'm just saying because at minimum, Kobe would have sicked them dogs on him, right? Or you know, I mean, I'm just saying, like, don't ever compare yourself to the Mamba and this, that, whatever, with those kind of mentalities where your teammates getting punched in the face, getting drugged all over the court and stuff like that. I mean, I'm Phoenix. Yeah, that's disappointing.
That's disappointing.
It is. It's
So
disappointing.
of course, we know tonight starts the NBA All-Star Weekend, in which we discussed and talked about what they have for going on for the night. Of course, you know tonight starts with the Rising Stars game. Um, have you? Do you think? Well, let's start with this first. You know, it's Saturday night 3-point shootout. Um, 3-point shootout, slam dunk contest, and the skills challenge. First and foremost, 3-point shootout. Who you think is walking away with that title?
Dame Lillard gonna win it again.
Going
Judging
with
by the
the
competition, it's gonna be
champion.
Dame Lillard. Yep.
Do you think it's only because Steph or Clay is not in it?
Yeah, I think it's just because of the competition. That's it. There's gonna be a lot of bricks. There's gonna be a lot of bricks in this 3-point competition.
You think so?
Oh yeah, you ain't gonna see a lot of makes. Like you ain't gonna see a lot of racks being cleared in this competition.
And then, of course, you go to the next one of that has a higher point, which people want to see, the slam dunk contest. Who are you? Who's your choice in this slam dunk contest?
Um, I'm not gonna even lie to you. I don't even know who in the competition. Like,
You got
that's how much I paid attention. But
Jaime
McClung gonna win again.
McClung, Mac McClung, and that would be again. So first and foremost, I would believe yes, the same Dame Lillard to be the 3-point champion because we're void of others. You know, what I'm saying even though Cat Williams is in it, Cat has been successful during All-Star Weekend and being making shots, 3-pointers, and skills challenges. He said I'll be playing Madden during the slam dunk contest. Why? What? That's messed up. So I asked this: going off of previous players, what could be the ultimate 3-point shot competition in your opinion? 8 players.
Well, if you get the best 3-point shooters in the game, right? Like if you got those shooters in the game, like if you had if you had Steph, what's his
Set
name leading the league? What's his name leading the league in scoring? I mean leading the league in 3 points, field
Grayson
goal
Allen,
percentage. Grayson Allen. If you had, if you put the shooters in the game, I even like what's his name from Sacramento, probably being in the game, the Keegan Murray guy. I think
Keegan
he a
Murray.
better 3 point. I think he a better 3-point shooter. But you lacking. That's what you missing. The 3-point shooters that can actually shoot the rock. I mean, no knock against Halliburton and those dudes, but they streaky shooters. They not known for the 3-point shot. Like Dane Lil known for his range. So he's a good addition to that game. You feel what
So
I'm saying? He's
so we
good.
if we
Clay
was to put
Thompson would be good. You know what
if
I'm
we was
saying?
to put names on it, Clay, Steph, Dane, Keegan,
Grayson Allen, yeah,
Grayson,
Keegan
give me three
Murray,
more.
yeah.
Give me three
And then
more.
And then you would probably look at you like Tyler Hero. I would like to see, we seen him in the competition before, I think, and he didn't do well, but get back in the competition a couple of years later, prove that you that guy that can shoot from distance. I also like I know it's crazy, but I like what's his name? Utah Clarkson. What's his name? Clarkson. Whatever Clark. Yeah, Clarkson. I like him.
Also, you know someone I think would be good. He's not around. Bane.
Yeah, Bane. Well, Bane hurt right now, so I
Yeah, he's
wasn't
hurt.
really looking at Bane. But since I can't get Bane, I would go. Like Jordan Poole's supposed to be this guy. Where he at? You know what I'm saying? Like put KD in the contest. I don't know if KD hits him at a fast enough clip to be in that contest, right? Like he a slow shooter. Like he don't have a quick trigger like the rest of them, right? Like
Hmm.
he take his time to shoot. So I don't know if he'll be good in a 3-point. I don't know if KD will be good in a 3-point competition where you got to rush the shot.
What about James Harden in 3-point competition? You,
No,
no, that's not a name not a name thrown in there.
he another one that he another one that don't have a real quick release.
Okay.
Your release got to be quick for that competition.
And then if you put it on the opposite, for me, looking at the slam dunk, or ultimate slam dunk would be Aaron Gordon. Even though I know he said he's done because he felt like he got done up. Aaron Gordon, McClung, Levine, and I don't know who the fourth one would be. McClung, I definitely still can bring back. Levine, Gordon. I don't know who the fourth
I
one would
like
be.
Anthony Edwards, right? I
Hey,
think he
oh
dunk
yes,
with force. I
yes,
think he
and
creative. I think he creative. I think he would be like a Dominique or something in a dunk contest right now. He'll be Vince Carter of today. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
He would be Vince Carter of today. Um, so I like the Anthony Edwards pick. He would be my pick to win
Yeah.
to win a dunk
So,
contest
but
in the
yeah, that
NFL.
that would be I think a fire.
Uh,
Anthony Edwards, McClung, defending his. Then of course Zach Levine and Aaron Gordon, which I think was the best one of the best slam dunk contests in this time frame. And I think actually Aaron Gordon won that one, but I mean it is what it is. Um, so yeah, so of course you have those that's going on. But of course, like we saying, starting out tonight with the Rising Stars. As we know, the Rising Stars has shifted how they do things, where they put 4 teams with some of the best and brightest talent in for young teams up against each other to play in two semifinals games, and then one plays, and then they play in the remainder of the championship game and what determine 1 through 3. So we have 14 that's being coached. One by Tamika Catchings, one by Paul Gasol, one by Det the Shrift, and the other by Jalen. Uh, so when you look at that, Team Jalen is comprised of Jordan Hawkins from the New Orleans Pelicans, Chet Holmgren from the Oklahoma City Thunder, Walker Kessler from Utah, Derek Lively the second from Dallas, Devin Williams from Oklahoma City, Jeremy Sokan from San Antonio, Shaden Sharp from Portland, who was injured, so I'm very sure he's going to be replaced, and Benedict Mathurin from Indiana. For Team Detlef Shrimp, you have Ivan Amasis from G League, Mateus from G League, this is the G League team. Tyler Smith, G League. Oscar Toshibe from where does Toshibe go to? It says IMA. Alondis at Williams and Mac McClung, who is Team G League or the night team. But Paul Gasol has Bill Calabier from Washington, from the Wizards. Jaime Jaquez from Miami. Brandon Miller from Charlotte. Jabari Smith Jr. from Houston. Kason Willis from Oklahoma. Victor Wembanyama from San Antonio. And Podziemski from Golden State. And last but not least, Team Tamika is composed of Paulo Banchero from Orlando, Scoot Henderson from Portland, Jaden Ivey from Detroit, Keegan Murray from Sacramento, Jalen Duren from Detroit, Keynote George from Utah, Vince Williams Jr. from Memphis, and Dyson Daniels from New Orleans. Hearing those names, who do you think comes out victorious in this particular Rising Stars game?
The team Paul Gasol got the squad. Like, hold up.
You would think it sound good. It sound hella good.
Like Paul Gasol, how did you manage to get all them? Wembanyama. Hold up. Wait a minute. But the other squad though, with Caro, that dude's different. So the catches, I'm looking at the catches and the Gasol squads right there. Like,
you think that's
it sounds like the Gasol got an edge. He got an edge. Brandon Miller, like, whoa, hold up. You got all the rookie talent.
You got Victor Wembanyama, Jabari Smith Jr., Brandon Miller, Jaime Jaquez. Just those four alone. Brandon Podziemski from Golden State, he's doing damage. He don't work himself into the starting lineup or even a role, significant role. So those five out of 8, out of 7 alone is pretty potent. But like you said, Panchero, Dyson Daniels is injured, so he's going to be replaced. But Jaden Ivey is in the sneeze at. Keegan Murray, we just talked about his ability to shoot. Vince Williams Jr. Is the replacement for Dyson Daniels. Jalen Duren. So I don't know. Tamika might be on the outside. It might be a little it might be different. I don't know. But right now it's looking like Team Gasol is really really potent.
Yeah. Texas got a pretty good squad too with the Scoot Henderson and the Bankero. Like that sounds like a pretty good squad. Ivy and stuff like that. Like maybe you gonna ball out.
Amani Bates is on Team Ignite. So not too bad. I think the team Deadlift team might actually put some work in too. But it's looking Paul Gasol's team is
Deadlift Shrimp. I ain't heard that name forever. Shout out Deadlift Shrimp.
Yeah, Deadlift is still doing this thing. So that's crazy, like you said. But that I might have to while I'm at work, I'll be at work during this game, but I might put it on one of the screens and continue to walk around and check it out, depending on how much how busy we are. But yes, that's going to be a squad. That shouldn't be that bad. So as we get ready to close out, when you look at these again, I think we talked about it briefly. The expedition games or these games, the all-star games and stuff like that, in your opinion, do you think is best in the beginning, in the middle of the season or at the end of the season?
I think for basketball it works mid-season. Like we call it the midway point, but they had already played 50-something games at this point.
Correct.
So,
basketball.
Yeah, I think for basketball and baseball,
yeah, halfway point.
I think it's good because they less physical sports. Football, yeah, you can't risk the injuries. You can't risk, we saw in the Super Bowl, two 49ers get hurt without contact, right?
Mhm.
So I think football is a little bit different, but yeah, as far as baseball and basketball, yeah, mid season is fine. I'm not saying you can't get injured, but it's not that high of a risk like it is football. So yeah, the mid season, and plus um, it allows that little break in between. Give them a little break and give some camaraderie. Like the players can meet up. Those that want to meet up, it's like a big thing. It's like a big, like I don't know. It's almost like when you do on a college campus where you have all the fraternities and all that stuff come together. You know what I'm saying? Like at a certain point to showcase their talent, their skills. Everybody get to see each other. Whereas I think in the off season, some of these, some of them ain't showing up.
Mhm. And additionally, do you think, in which I think you just said it, basically answered the question, is it worth having these events? And for the most part, it does. Is opportunity for camaraderie, competition, as we all, in my opinion, competition definitely breeds something in people. And so if you're doing it in the expedition way, which people, friends, family can get together and rap and chat amongst each other, different things, activations and things going on, it bodes for a good event. So it definitely makes sense. No different from the in-game tournaments, in-season tournaments, and things of that nature. So definitely it makes sense. So of course, that is our show for today. We'll be able to come back and talk about what we seen and what we thought in for the season. We'll be a week closer to what's coming up. As I said, we start making a little more of a transition into one of the biggest tournaments in the world. As we know, March Madness is just around the corner. As we get closer and closer, we start to take it around, look at the breakdown of the bracketologies and see what they're talking about. We talked about Edie earlier. Is Edie going to be win yet another Wooden Classic Award for being the most valuable player in the NCAA? Is Houston going to be able to enact what they probably should have did last year? Do they get knocked off again? Do we see that coming up? So we're gonna see where we're at with it, how it's going. So greatly appreciate those that tapped in. Look forward to seeing you on Monday. Of course, Coach, any last words before we get up out of here?
Yeah, I like to thank those that have supported the book, but if you haven't checked it out, check out Moments of Intimacy, My Chicago Love on the Amazon platform. Again, thanks for all the support. And I'm taking the West. Trey didn't even ask, but I'm taking the West in the All Star game.
Oh yeah,
Going
that's
West.
true that, true that. You know what? I stand corrected, but without a doubt, if the East wins, I'd be surprised. But the West is locked and loaded, going back to the old system. So it's definitely, I'm with you, it's Team West all day, every day. Y'all know what it is. Myself, Trey, the commish, the People's Coach, Cornelius Cole. Be sure to check his book out, and we'll holler at y'all. See y'all on Monday. Peace.